everyone, this is Steve Weintraub with Collider. I'm here at the Cinema Center at the Toronto Film Festival. I want to give a huge thank you to Range Rover Sport for being our sponsor. They're enabling us to cover movies here, and I really want to say thank you. And now, I am so happy to talk to you guys about Relay. First of all, I really want to say thank you for making movies, and I need you to make more of them.
Well, we're trying. Sam and I just finished another one, so we are trying.
Oh, sir, we're going to talk about that too. Okay. Believe me, I came prepped. So I hate doing this, but no one watching this will have seen the movie yet. So how have you been describing the film to people?
I'm saying it's a kind of paranoid thriller about good guys versus bad guys, and it's sort of set in New York, contemporary. But it has a sort of flavor of some of the kind of great movies from the 70s and a little bit of Hitchcock in there. And there's a cat and mouse game that's quite a strong element to it. It's all set in the world of whistleblowers and the kind of strange bravery of guys who are kind of going against some quite strong corporate interest to try and bring their stuff out or not, as the case may be.
Sam, I know you get offered scripts. What was it about this one? That sounded so stupid, but what was it about this script that said, I need to be a part of this?
David, to be honest. Look, I'd worked with David on Under the Banner of Heaven and liked his style. And then I heard that he was doing this with Riz and Lily, and I'm big fans of theirs. So I knew the script would just be popping, but knowing how David approaches things, he has such a fluid and visceral style that I begged him for the job. I live in New York City, so I thought, well, that might get me in the door because they're filming around the corner. And then, that's the thing. David's style and how I look at filmmaking kind of matches. And so I know that he can bring such a different energy to different genres, like his body of work. He's done a whistleblowing thriller to a Western to a prison movie. He's pretty adept at handling kind of any material, and it's just the style he approaches is very exciting for me.
I don't want to do any spoilers, but I'm just going to talk about the opening shot because I love it. So right at the beginning, you're establishing tension with the way the camera starts on the street and you follow someone into a restaurant. It's a oneer that really pulls you in. So why was it important for you to start the film like that? And if you could talk about it.
I've got a little bit of a tradition of starting films with oneers. So that, this is not necessarily the most complex one that we've done, but it just I think it's a really interesting way to kind of draw people into a movie. The tension of waiting for the cut, allows you to kind of enter into the world, and so that was the intention of that. Yeah. So
one of the things about the film is that, and it's so nice as someone who watches so many movies, is that the antagonist and the protagonist seem very equally matched. And you're also working with things, and I don't want to spoil anything, that you typically don't see in movies, the way people communicate. There's a lot of fresh stuff in this. Talk a little bit about that aspect of trying to depict things where people are in equilibrium, if you will, and using technology and things that a lot of people don't realize. Well,
I think one of the realities of today is that if you want to go incognito, or if you want to kind of be untraceable, untrackable, you have to ditch your technology, because everything that you've got that technologically is completely trackable. And so this character is a kind of complete analog man. Who operates in, he uses phones, but in a different way, and they're all burner phones. It's like so he's operating on the fringes, trying to kind of not be seen. He's got stuff in Faraday bags. It's all kind of it's urban. Corporate espionage type stuff in a way, but it's a reality that one can't. None of us can escape being tracked if we use technology. So the only way of not being tracked is to not use technology.
Talk a little bit about for Sam. Talk a little bit about the character that you play in the film, and the aspect of the technology. You know what I mean, and the way David incorporates.
Yeah, look, the character, it's henchman one. That's what it is. All right, now, don't get me wrong. I think that they're the best kind of roles, obviously, because sometimes if you work with someone like David, he allows you to explore and to play. And out of the truth of what you're trying to achieve, you can create characters that go far beyond what may have been on the page. That's the idea. So that's, it's not necessarily true. It's just the journey that I go on with David and like how we work together. And I think part of that fun on a movie like this is you're going to explore way more. And because the characters aren't necessarily interacting or communicating in person for a majority of this movie, when it's put together, you coming up with probably unique angles to each scene that weren't necessarily thought of in the original draft. There's scenes with Riz where I have no idea really what he did off camera, and vice versa. He didn't know how I was responding, and sometimes the way that what I'm saying to him is not necessarily what I'm thinking or what I'm doing and being expressed. And that's where kind of you can find a bit of nuance and fun with what you're playing with, and try to elevate the movie somewhat.
For both of you, and I ask this of everyone because it always gives a unique answer. When you see the shooting schedule in front of you, what day do you have circled in terms of I can't wait to film this? And what day do you have circled in terms of how the F are we going to film this?
It's a good one. This is a pretty short schedule for the ambition, and we had something like just under 300 scenes we had to shoot in 27 days, and a lot of it on the streets of New York. So every day was a sort of a little bit of a kind of like, oh, how are we going to do this? Our first day shooting, we shot what is ultimately an 8-minute scene in Times Square, which was pretty scary. In live Times Square, we didn't control Times Square at all. Sam was sort of, in a corner observing things, and I just kind of let him get on with it, and he produced the amazing kind of stuff that he did, and so it was sort of thrilling kind of live location scenario, but obviously slightly terrifying as well.
Sure.
Yeah, to me, that there's the questions you don't ask an actor because we're not thinking of days or time or budget constraints. I think any day where it's authentic and you're just filming wherever in it, Times Square, on the airport, or that's part of the fun. I don't find them intimidating. I find when David drops me in a situation and says, okay, we've got to get this, and we've got to get it on the fly, and we don't know what's going to happen. That's the spontaneity that you're trying to capture. So to me, that's I live for every day with you when we work with you like that.
Well, Sam's amazing at taking those opportunities and finding ways to find the truth in things. And it's interesting on the last one we did that they were we explored stuff and then we found simplicity, and it's always about sort of trying to kind of get to the emotional core and the truthful core of the performance and the character.
I was going to get to this to the end, but fuck it, let's just bring it up now. It's called Fuse?
Fuse.
And you have Aaron Taylor-Johnson in it. Might as well tell people what it's about.
Yeah, Theo James as well. I play Henchman 2 in this one. It's no shit. Henchman X, actually, I think it's called.
X, yeah.
And it was the same thing. I begged him for another role.
And it's a story based on an old World War II bomb being discovered on a building site in London, and a large scale evacuation taking place, and shenanigans that are going on around that.
And I think a lot of David's movies, if you look at them, like from Fuse and Relay, they deal with loyalty and betrayal. And I think these are they're really cool themes to explore, because they can take the audience any way, and you're forever guessing what's going to happen. And I think there's always an intricacy to that when it's done right, you're ahead of the audience, and that's what you're trying to take them. And especially in Relay, I think you're ahead of the audience for a majority of it.
One of the things about, and I hear this from so many filmmakers right now, is that films are not being given that much time. Like TV is getting more time to tell their story. And 27 days. I know a filmmaker that he laments that he can get 40 or 42, and that's it, and he cannot push beyond that. One of the things that I love about your work is that it feels so cinematic. So talk a little bit about what it's like when you're getting ready to make Relay. You have a limited time, and making sure you can get those shots that feel like you're in a movie and not on a TV show.
Well, I work very fast. So that's kind of how you do it, and you're always thinking very intuitively about how to get that scale and that cinematic kind of quality, and it's a sort of instinctive game. But there's a sort of speed and energy to us doing it, and we kind of keep it kind of going. in a way so it doesn't feel like the sort of stop start of a lot of movies. And so yeah, you can get through quite a lot in a day. I mean, obviously, one wants to have as much time as possible to explore every angle and do everything. But you cut your coat according to your cloth.
So I love talking about editing. It's another question for your director. I'm sorry. I love talking about editing because it's ultimately
good. He's good because he puts in my best bits.
Because it's ultimately
that's not true, Sam. They're all good.
Editing is where it all comes together. So my first question is, of the films you've made, which one changed the most in the editing room in ways you didn't expect going in?
It's a good question. I mean, certainly with Outlaw King, it was the first cut was 4.5 hours long.
Was that like an assembly cut, or was that like an actual cut?
It was an assembly cut, but it was everything was there. So we had some. The editor and I had sweepstakes about which character would contain the most percentage of what they put in there, and it would, during the course of the edit, it would change. Some people would have more, some people would have less, and it was like, so that shaped a lot in the edit. My first film, Last Great Wilderness, which was made in a very chaotic environment, where the UK shut down because of foot and mouth disease, and so we were turning up at locations we'd never seen before and having to shoot. That was very much constructed in the edit. So I guess that's probably the answer.
Jumping into this film, so you get in the editing room, you have your cut. How did this one change in the editing room in ways you didn't expect? Maybe after showing it to friends and family.
This one sort of came together editorially relatively sort of straightforwardly. I mean, there was a bit of cross-cutting, so there's some choices that we made on that. Then there was also, because there's quite a lot of complex information there. There were times we needed to kind of reinforce things. But this one was definitely not a tortured edit. I think Fuse, which has got a lot of cross-cutting, and we've shot a lot, that's going to be a really interesting edit because of the cross-cutting. There are so many choices. So that's going to be I'm sort of stealing myself for that because we just finished shooting last week. So
you just finished?
Yeah, like 4 days ago.
Oh wow! Did you need to finish before you came to TIFF?
Well, I mean, it would have been. I mean, I would have had to stop if we hadn't done. But yeah. I guess. I mean, the schedule worked out right.
Sure.
So.
And I don't mean to ask this, but as I want to see this next one, is the plan for next year's TIFF? Do you know when you're
possibly? I mean, I don't know quite when it'll be ready. It depends on how complex that edit is, to be honest.
Question for you, Sam. I am a fan of your work, and I love talking to actors about getting ready for a role. If say you're shooting on a Monday, and how early before you're shooting are you breaking down the character, thinking about how you want to play things? How much do you sort of, now that you've done so many roles, is your process refined because you sort of have a system in place?
I think it took 20 odd years for me to figure out how to act, to be honest. Yeah, I've only now having the confidence to actually maybe articulate it in a way where I can go, look, all that stuff that you're talking about should have been done months before I get to set. So then when I get to set, that stuff becomes, it's just in your fabric. And then you lend yourself to the hands of the director that you're with. But I only feel that I'm only just starting to figure out what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
I've spent 20 years kind of looking at, I'd say a horizontal format where I've kind of learnt my craft. See, it's weird. A band can go in a bedroom and learn how to play an album, and then when that album's ready, they'll release it to the world. And a painter can do the same, or a writer can write their book and then refine it with friends and then publish it. We're kind of at a loss. We kind of have to learn our craft as we're doing it and putting your movies out there. So each kind of misstep you may make in your learning your craft, it could end your career because it's in the zeitgeist. So as an actor, you can't really kind of go in your bedroom and learn how to act. You've got to be on a set and work with fellow kind of creatives. And out of that, you can take risks, but you're doing it in this public eye. And so I think I've been lucky enough to survive a long time and then get to the point where now I go, okay, I kind of know where my craft is. Now I'll start going, say, maybe vertical rather than horizontal, and find people where I go, I think our style kind of matches, man, or I'd like to explore more, and now I've got stuff that I can offer you, even though it took 2 decades to get there. But that's just how I've approached it. Yeah.
I listen as a huge fan. I apologize, but as a huge fan of James Cameron and what you guys have done together, I think I represent all fandom when I say, what can you tease about the upcoming Avatar sequels?
That's the thing. Me and Jim talked the other day about it. It was 18 years ago when I first met Jim. I've known him 18 years. So in that time, I've learned how to act for him. But look, we can't tease that much, man. He released the title the other day. I think there's, I've seen a lot. I know where the third one goes, and I know where 4 and 5 go, obviously. But it's very difficult, and part of us also don't want to release things, as you said earlier on. Sometimes to go into movies completely anonymous and not knowing anything it's a rare gift. And with those movies, the less we say, the better, I think.
Well, I'm going to ask you this. One of the things is the sequel did so well around the world, and there was a lot of talk. Is the audience still around for this world and for these characters?
It was a great thing. I remember a journalist said to Jim that same question when we were promoting. He said, but it's been 13 years between movies. Is there still an audience? He said, well, no one knew anything about the first one. It didn't seem to hurt that. Says it all, really.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're true to the way Jim approaches it, if you're true to the story, and you would be the same, David, if you're true to the story and true to the characters, it will find an audience. It just will. You've got to believe in it. Otherwise, it's crazy that someone out there is wanting to hear your story.
I'm curious, when it comes to, you've worked with so many different filmmakers, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but how does someone like David and James work on set? Are they similar? Have you had certain filmmakers that are just radically different in terms of their process?
Yeah, every single one is different. Every single one. That's what makes my job very interesting, because David, it may take, say, 2 years for him to get back on another film set, whereas in that time I could potentially do 4 movies, maybe 5, 6 movies. And so you're working with very different personalities and approaches. But Jim's very fluid. He understands it's a creative endeavor and a very collaborative endeavor. He's exactly the same. He's fluid, he's spontaneous, and he realizes it's about collaboration. There's always one leader, be it David or Jim, but that approach, they're identical. I've said I'd only work with him or Jim for the rest of my life. I really enjoyed the process of it. You know what I mean? And that's very rare, because sometimes that process can be a headache, or it can be very difficult, or but you want it to be simple and be on the same page and tell the same stories.
I'm just about out of time with you, but I want to ask for both of you. You've worked on so many different projects. When you think back, what shot or sequence for you has been the most difficult to pull off, and why? And same with you.
Well, look, anytime we're doing something with Avatar, we're pushing the envelope, because it's never been done. It's never been tried. So on Avatar 2, no one had ever attempted or even thought you could do underwater motion capture. So that's what Cameron does, and I'm always his guinea pig. I love being the soldier that jumps into the water with all the technology on me and see what happens. And I love being around that. I love being about guys that, or filmmakers that don't. There is no boundaries. They're just willing to keep pushing this art form. It's a very infant art form when you compare it to music or literature. So I really want to be with those guys that are keen to take risks and keen to keep pushing it.
I don't know the answer to that question, really. I mean, I remember we had a conversation a few years ago about the opening 8 minutes of our film Outlaw King, which obviously took a long time to do. But that was fun. The last few scenes of our film start up were where we shot the film sequentially, and it was very, very high intensity, and we were all completely exhausted after a 24-day shoot.
I don't know how you do it.
That was and the emotions were really frayed. Ben Mendelsohn and Jack O'Connell were sort of almost really going for each other. It was really, really, really intense, and just having to kind of navigate that while sort of being kind of punch drunk was kind of quite intense.
Both of them are tremendous actors, and I can only imagine that when you're that many hours in, I can't.
And you're in a prison.
Yeah. Really.
It would have felt. I can imagine Mendo just. I
actually don't know, and I apologize, but is this film for sale at here, or is it coming out? Like, what can you say?
I think it is for sale. I think there's no domestic distributor yet. I'm hoping that in the course of the next few days that we find one.
I'm pretty confident the answer is gonna be yes. I'm very confident. On that note, listen, I would love to talk more about specifics, but that will be when the movie is coming out. I really want to say a sincere congratulations, and I hope you guys continue working together for a long time.
Me too.
Thanks.
It's been really good working with you, Sam. Thank you.
Oh, it's good. Thanks, man.
On that note, more interviews from the Collider studio soon.
Thank you, Steve.
If you don't, thank you.